Morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Obviously disappointed with the outcome of last Saturday, as I'm sure everybody is, our fans. And players were in here yesterday. Had a great team meeting. Fortunately, I've been there before, so kind of go back and look at your notes, talk about the things that you need to talk about. There's usually three things after a loss, especially like that you really dissect. Is it scheme? Is it personnel? Is it coaching? I evaluate every game that way, win or lose. But when things happen like that, you really evaluate it, and it was a combination of all three. So there's not one single person to blame for that. You got to give Northwestern a lot of credit. They found a way to win in a very tough circumstance, and we weren't able to make enough plays on the offense, defense, or special teams, and it cost us. That's the thing about football, is the ball's not round. Sometimes it doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes things don't go your way, and sometimes you don't make your own way. And we weren't able to do that in the fourth quarter, which is incredibly disappointing. But this team's got a ton of character, and they're learning. This isn't about, they're just youthful. No, there's a lot of youthful players. That is a fact, and inexperienced players. But there's also some experienced players out there too. And I told you the one thing I worried about with this team, when it's really good, what happens when it's going really good? When it isn't going so good, what happens when it's going not going so good? I said that back in January when you asked me what kind of team we're going to have, and this word poise comes into play. Poise just doesn't mean when it's going good or when it's going bad. It means all the time. And I thought we've shown times this year with poise when it's gone really bad and good. And then I've seen at times we haven't when it's gone really bad and good. So that's the development of the character of this team as we keep going forward and we keep getting them better. But that's where we're at. Got to give Northwestern a lot of credit. They earned it, and they earned it. And they got a good victory, and obviously we got a tough defeat. So I'll open up for questions.
This game, you talk a lot about personal responsibility and putting it on your shoulders.
Absolutely. I mean, it's 100% on my shoulders. I'm the head football coach. Everything runs through me. And I don't just say that, guys, to get out of questions. I don't ever say that. Because I go back and look at every decision that the head coach makes, and then if it works, great, you never hear about it. If it doesn't work, okay, why didn't it work? So I'll follow up to your second question because that was more of a statement, I think. So
I was getting to the question. So the question is kind of coming off of that, what changes in your approach coming out?
Well, I think it's just, for me, the learning is every team is completely different, which I've said, and I know this team's very different. But you have only so many games of data. Let's just take the third down, for instance, 3rd and 2. Let's just go into that, okay? I'll give you an example because we can go into all of them. I mean, we can spend 7 hours here if you want. We can get into some really good football talk. Best play call available, what we have based on their double legal look, love the call. But the way it's run is maybe the way it's run on an open field, 3rd and 2 maybe in the second quarter. The situation within the play matters more than just the play call. And that's where a young back will understand that. That's where I have to come into play to make sure that happens. You hear me all the time in practice, not the play the situation. Play the situation. It's the situation within the play. So it's not just the play call, but it's the situation within the play. And this isn't on one person's shoulders. I mean, the kid ran for 200 yards. He was unbelievable. And he did what he needed to do to pick up that first down. But when you're looking at it, you're like, in that situation, what could have I done better to make sure the emphasis was on truly the situation, not just the play call? And I have to be able to do all that. So again, not on him, on me, but those are the types of things that you have to be in that moment, maybe not on the defensive side, but you're getting everybody's piece of information at the same time too, within that timeout. Because there's a 3-prong attack in that one situation. One, okay, if we get a yard, we're going for it. If we don't get a yard or it gets knocked back, we're going to punt it, right? And the field goal came into play maybe if we got enough where I felt like, okay, this is going to be okay. But the field goal was almost pretty much out of it just because it was going to be plus 55 and into the wind, and the wind got a little stronger as the game went on. So it's not that I didn't believe in him. It was just I don't know if that was the high. I might as well go for it if I'm going to kick it. But I was only going to go for it if we got positive yards on that next play. And you can end the game, or you can say, okay, well, I can give them the field position at the 37-yard line if I kick it, miss it, or we don't get it on the first down. And if we lose yardage, immediately I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to go for it. So now we're going to punt it. And we executed the punt perfectly. We just didn't execute, which we've done a million times. It just didn't happen the millionth and first time. And that's not that young man's fault. It happens. It just all happened in that area. And I trust our guys because they've shown they've done it constantly. You go back and watch Q make that play inside the 5 and catch the punt. I mean, he's so trained and so well liked, and he's such a really good football player. That's why I trust him. He just lost sight of where he was. Then that happens. There were so many things that happened within that 15 minutes that was catastrophic for us. So when you're talking about, as a head coach, you're constantly talking situational football in your mind to yourself of what you're going to do if, what you're going to do if, what you're going to do if. And it's all situational based. So what I can do better is, again, it's not that you assume it, but as the old saying says, if I've told them 10 times, then I need to tell them 11. And that's part of the development youth of a young team. And, I failed to do that.
Darius Taylor went out after that third down run, didn't play again. Do you have an update on his status for this week?
No injury update. I'll have that for you 2 hours before game day or game time.
How would you characterize the issues in pass defense right now?
Well, I think right now, remember, you're only as good as what you just did, right? Because I think when you go back and you look at where we were in North Carolina, we got him out of the pocket. He made some plays on his, on the scramble, and we were in a position. Aiden Goosby's in a great position. The kid makes a heck of a play. You can't take away really great plays made by people and say that's poor defense. Some people just make great plays. So there's a handful of those plays at North Carolina that were really, really good coverage, and some that weren't, right? Same thing in this game. But in the last drive, there were 2 times where they missed throws too, where there were 2 guys that were open. Then the last drive, just unacceptable. Our eyes are in the wrong spot. We're not detailed enough. And that comes down to, like I said, is it personnel? Is it coaching? Is it scheme? It's all of it, right? And we're finding out what our players can do, what this team can do as you continue to gain data, and then you respond to the data. We thought they could do that. We thought they could be in that coverage. We thought they could handle that. Now we got to be able to either switch the personnel or switch the scheme. And I think that's where, you learn from the game. But it wasn't very good, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that. It wasn't very good. We had lack of detail. We're not dropping even at the linebacker spot where we need to be able to drop to. There's a lot of inexperienced guys playing linebacker right now. And, but that's who's playing. And it's going to pay, because these aren't guys that aren't ever going to play. These are guys that are going to play tons of football for the Gophers in the future. And they have to play right now. So it's only an investment to later. But right now, it matters, right? And it matters. And what they're going to get now, coaching-wise, in that scheme, or in their mistakes and their successes they're making, is only going to benefit them, when they get into their sophomore year. So it's hard because it's that balance. You understand that they're young, but they're playing and they have to be able to do it because we have some guys that are banged up and injured, and that's part of it. And again, that starts with me.
Anything stand out to you in your review of the game about the why, like why there's such a team-wide lapse in the fourth quarter like that?
Well, again, it was offense, defense, and special teams. It was odd because it wasn't a lack of our guys playing hard. You go back to the film, they're playing their tails off. And that's why I said there's a lot of things you can control, and then there's things you can't control in football. And the minute you think you can control it all, you're out. That's just not how it works. You're up 31-10. The one drive, they go 3 passes in a row and score. That one, completely unacceptable. But then on offense, we have plenty of opportunities to get first downs, control the clock, manage the game on offense, and still score, and we don't. We have special teams that gets affected by that, right? Ball goes into the end zone. So instead of going 80 with no timeouts, they had to go 99, and we didn't execute it well enough. So every single thing, offense, defense, special teams, there was something from it that answered the question why, all packed within this one quarter. But if we're going to talk about our team quitting or our team not giving their all or not playing hard or thought they had it, that's not it at all. First of all, that's not true. I watched it. I watched those things. I feel those things. I listen to those things. Northwestern executed. There is no the momentum piece, that had nothing to do with it. They executed. We didn't play well enough. And you look at where our drop spots and where we were in the first half compared to where we were in the fourth quarter, we were a foot off. We were a little bit off here and there. It wasn't the ability to play hard or anything like that. So that was really reassuring. So it was playing the situations. It was understanding situations. It was understanding a double move. Who cares if it beats you? Or not who cares if it beats you, but how can you get beat by a double move when really you know that's what they're going to do? There's no need to jump on it. Keep the space, keep things in front of you, and we weren't able to do that.
Two instances where it looked like you guys threw short of the sticks, Daniel Jackson,
Yeah.
Brevin.
I think sometimes when people say, like, well, you throw short of the sticks, I think that's the old people sitting on their couch saying, well, it's 10 yards and you threw the ball 8 yards. I get that piece of what people say because, listen, I get it. I've seen it. I've heard it. I've had my own family say it. There are certain things sitting in zones where, okay, the route might call for a 6-yard route and he catch punctures. There's plenty of space. He runs for 20 yards, gets the first. There's all types of certain things that you're creating in the plays that you actually call. However, yes, the route on 2 instances to our tight end called for the route to be able to pick up the first down with the route's depth, and we did not get our depth. That's what I said, that everything we did, it wasn't that they didn't play hard, but the lack of the detail and the execution, that wasn't there. And again, that's why it starts with the head coach. If the route's at 5, the route needs to be at 5. If anything, it's at 5.5, not 4 or 3, right? And so that's where we had that struggle. There was one other play that I think we extended a little bit deeper than what we probably wanted it to be, and we're a yard short. So, but there were 2 other instances that the route is just short in general. But I'm not into like, okay, well, I know it's 3rd and 20, and we're going to throw a 2-yard route. Now, sometimes you got to check it down. Think about when it's 3rd and 20. Why would you check it down? Why would you check it down? Because sometimes a punt's a really good play in a certain situation. Now, our situations, on 2 or 3 of them, we didn't get our depth. And that was unfortunate because that's why the play is called.
The offensive line opened up some big holes for Darius. And I thought for the most part, especially in the first half, 3 quarters, Nathan had plenty of time to throw.
He did.
Were you happy with that unit?
I was happy with, it was. But again, it comes down to still situational football. I was happy with the performance of, again, keeping Ethan clean, Ethan having time. I thought Ethan played way better, right? We're talking about this young quarterback, and this is after a week that he had to do what he did. It doesn't get enough credit because it gets lost in the loss, right? He was perfect. I think it was 8 for 8 at halftime. Talking about to be able to have the mental fortitude to come back after maybe the worst game he's played, that shows the growth that I've told you all that he can do. And you can see the accuracy. You can see his pocket presence. He's only going to keep getting better, guys. He's a really good football player. The offensive lines did a great job of taking ownership of protecting him, helping him with that bounce back. And then, we said back in the Eastern Michigan week that we need to be able to run the football. Darius has shown the ability to break tackles. It's not going to be perfect. Our O-line did a really good job with Mohamed Ibrahim here, but Mohamed Ibrahim also broke a lot of tackles and carried a lot of people on his back, right? And everybody got credit for it, which in the same time, there'd be a huge hole and we get 1 yard in it, and there would be like, what happened up front? So it all comes down to the big guys up front. I think they're doing a really good job of playing cohesively as one. It's just now we've got to be able to be, again, in those situations, in those 3rd and 1 to 2s. You got to know how important those are. And in years past, maybe we haven't focused on a lot of that, or I've talked much about it because it's been so fluid with the execution that it looks easier than it really is. And right now, it doesn't look as easy.
Darius kind of channeled Mo when on that touchdown run when he was stopped, went to the outside, and made a nice run.
Yeah, he did make a nice run. And what he did was he kept it really tight to the shelf and got his foot vertical. And then he was able to break the tackle because he was hit short of the first down. Ran him over, stiff arm, broke the tackle and went. And again, when you go back to some of the other short yardages in the key situations, instead of keep extending that, know the situation, stick your foot in the ground, let's go get a first down first. And that's what, my whole thing is the first down first in key situational football. First down first, reset the downs. We'll get to the next one. Just got to reset the downs. Because if we don't reset the downs, we don't have a chance for the next series, right? For the next, the next 1st and 10. So, and I think that's where we're just going to continue to learn. And we've prided ourselves for, 11 years being really good at situational football. And I got to do a better job of continue to educate them on that.
half, it seemed like there was a lot of passing on the early downs. In the second half, maybe not so much. Was that mainly dictated by the score differential at the time, or what led to that?
Well, in the second half, we opened the half with 4 straight throws. So I don't know if I necessarily would say, based on what your question is, which is a good question, it's just I don't know if that's what it was. We throw the first ball the first half, have a 20-yard completion or 18-yard completion, and then we throw it 3 straight times off an RPO and go 0 for 3. You can imagine me, we just got the ball, 14:30 on the clock. I'm sitting there going, where are the seconds and minutes gone? And now it's just like they got the ball in the second half. Make sense? So it wasn't like it was a reprimand, just run the ball, but you only go based on the execution of what you're doing. And then you have a lead, and then you're up 31-10, and now it's about ball possession. I'm used to having that ball 7-8 minutes. And next thing you know, you're up 38-10, the game's over, or you kick a field goal 34-10, there's only 6 minutes left in the game. So your question's very fair and valid. I just don't think that's what we were necessarily looking at on the first and second down passes.
Defenses try to cover Brevin differently this season. I mean,
well, they definitely are way more aware of him. Way more aware of him. I know that, his production from a statistical standpoint isn't where you want it. I want him to be better every single day. Heck, I just had a meeting with him. So that's my job, is to continue to get him better and continue to improve all his little minor details. But you see people paying way more attention to him. You don't see people, eyes in the backfield letting him slip behind him. And, he's earned the right to gain a lot more attention. Now, what we have to do is continue to get him free. But they're giving him more attention, which is allowing some of our other playmakers to make more plays as well. I thought you take the first 3 quarters, which nobody cares about, but I do, because I look for the improvement of the football team. And I thought we played a really good 3-quarter football game. And we came off a game that was really tough where we didn't execute that well on offense. And you go into we're up 31-10 in the third quarter, 31 points in 3 quarters with the response to a pretty stout, when you're talking guys who have played a ton of football for them. And, we just got to the fourth quarter and didn't execute like we did the first 3 quarters. But that's football. I remember an NFL game last year where our home state's NFL team came back. I mean, I think the Packers came back. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, I mean, it's football. It's unfortunate because it doesn't happen to us very often, if ever. And when it happens, it's harder because it's like, wait a minute, what happened? And how'd that happen to his led football team? And I think that's what's hard for me too, because I hurt just like the players hurt with them. However, why did I hurt? Because you care, and they care. And they didn't want that to happen. And you got to give Northwestern a lot of credit. And it wasn't somebody wanted it more than somebody else. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with just us not executing and finishing the game in some critical situational plays that we will get corrected.
In overtime, the decision to kick the field goal instead of going for it on 4th and short and goal, what went into that decision? Did you trust your defense, or was the offense just not executing at a high enough level?
Well, I think a mixture. I think it's a mixture of both. So I think you kind of go into the middle. I'll give you an example, and I'll get back to your OT question. We talk about the 3-prong attack because everybody's familiar with this play call. 3rd and 2, what do? Right? Okay, you lose a yard. Now it's 4th and 3.5. Okay, I get on the headset, talk to the offense. They're like, man, hey, we pin him down there. You go to the defensive side, Joe's like, well, we haven't stopped anybody all day. I mean, we'll give it our shot, but we really haven't stopped anybody all day. Look at the fourth quarter, right? You get everybody's opinion. So what do you do as a coach? You pick neither, right? I picked neither. At the end of the day, it wasn't one or the other. It was, I'm going to pick the clock, right? And it wasn't about I didn't have faith in this one or didn't have faith in that one. I'm going to give us the best chance to pin it at the 1-yard line, which if we execute, we're there, right? And I believe in that. And so because that gave the team the best chance, not who I believed in more or less. I mean, that doesn't, that's not what you're talking. I believe in the team, and special teams are a part of that. So when you go back to the overtime, you're thinking, okay, well, we just dropped the ball to have it, or to have a touchdown. Okay, if we come away with nothing here, all they have to do is set up and kick a field goal, whatever it is, and I never gave our team a chance to respond. You take the points, however you can take the point. Now, if it was on the 1 yard line, maybe a little bit different, right? But again, we're talking over inches. And so the decision was get points. Maybe something happens. Maybe they fumble. Maybe our defense kept saying, we're going to make a play. We can make a play. That's why I love it. That's why it wasn't like they stopped playing and quit. That's dumb. That's not true. We're going to make a play. We're going to make a play. Just like when we put them out there against Nebraska. They made a play. Our defense has always made a play. Purdue, they make a play. They make plays. I believe in them. But when you're talking about making decisions in those games, you get everybody's input, and then you make a decision. And in that was just put points on the board. We did. And if they were able to, we got to stop, and they miss a field goal, we win. It still put some type of pressure on them. Because if we weren't stopping them, okay, well, if we do score a touchdown, they'd score a touchdown probably too. So it was more of just relying on our defense to make a play.
When you're working with a roster of 18 to 23-year-olds, what's the biggest challenge in getting them to flush a tough loss and move on to the next one?
Well, I think it's the toughest thing is they care and it hurts, first and foremost. So you got to give people time to grieve, because I really believe it's a piece of a grief process when you lose. That's what I love about our players and I love about our team is they care enough to hurt really bad when things don't go right. That's how you know you have a good football team. Wins and losses aside, that's how you know you have a really good football team that's really fun to work with and fun to develop. Because I've seen it the other way too, and that's not very fun, right? So what you do is you have a meeting like we did yesterday. You're very transparent. You're very honest with them. You're very factual. You show exactly what the data is, and then you show how you're going to get better. So then I showed them a bunch of comebacks, because then you got to be creative on top of that, because their world is on their phone. And not one of you said a nice thing about anyone yesterday, right? So they read that, and so now they're hurt again because this is their world. And I'm not saying you should, okay? I'm just making probably a factual comment, and nor should you, I guess. But that when we value something like this, so then you have to be creative. So we showed them a bunch of comebacks, from the NBA comebacks. Some of the greatest teams in the NBA were up 28 points, like the Golden State Warriors were, with Steph Curry and all the great players. And they lost the game, but still came back to win the finals or win that series. Baseball, same way. Team down 15-0 in the third inning. Come back and win that game and then go on to win an NLCS or an ALCS. You show them almost every sport of how it happens. We talked about the NFL game yesterday. Talked about the Vikings, how they came. Football is football, and that's why we're all so infatuated with it. And Jim Tressel taught me a lesson a long time ago. I asked him a question. I said, why do you coach college football? You don't get much time with a head coach when you're a GA, especially when there's only one GA. He goes, good question. He goes, because you never know what's going to happen. And I was like, that's the greatest answer ever, but the scariest answer at the same time. So what makes us really enjoy it can scare the hell out of you at the same time, and that's the enjoyment. That's what, when dealing with young people, that's why you do it. And things like this are really hard to take, but it's part of life. So is when you come home and your wife tells you she has cancer. So is when your child dies. So is when your family's pet dies, or when there's a divorce in the family. There are so many things that are really hard, and this program teaches them to hit it head on. We are going to roll right through the storm. However long the storm takes, we're rolling right through it. We're not going around it. We're not jumping out of the boat. We're going right through it. And that's why it's so fun to work with young people. And I guess that's why Jim Tressel said that. So that's been the best, and one of the best quotes and advice. I don't know if it was advice. He really just answered the question, but I took that advice. And a great question. So we'll get through it. And they came in yesterday, positive attitude, and we look forward to meeting with a lot of them today. A lot of them guys are already in there, and then we'll come back and respond tomorrow. So.
We'll wrap up with one question from Mike Graham. Go ahead.
So,
Sorry,
that's all right. Looking ahead, it's a game coming up, obviously Saturday, homecoming. What can you tell us about homecoming into Louisiana?
Yeah, well, homecoming, I think, is one of the greatest events of high school and college. Brings all the alumni back. It's a really exciting time. This is, part of what we always talk about with our culture is connecting the past, the present, and then into the future, and being part of that bridge. And that's what we're here for. So it's going to be really exciting to get everybody back. I know our marketing team's done a really good job with providing just such a great game day environment for everybody. It should be a great day. And we got a really good opponent, an opponent who's beaten Power 5 teams in the past few years. They're playing at a really high level right now. They're a really good football team, does a lot. They got a really good running quarterback that also throws it really well. They got wideouts galore. They got a big experienced offensive line. Their defense plays anywhere from a 3-5-3 to a 3-3-5 to a 3-2-6 to a 4-down front. They mix it up, and they got athletes everywhere. And they're really good. They're 3-1, playing at a really high level. Probably should be 4-0. Probably shouldn't have lost that one game that they probably want back if you really look at the game film. So, and they're really well coached, and they've had a lot of success over the years. So it'll be another chance for us to be 1-0. Be looking forward to that, and hope to see all of our fans there and all the former players and all the alumni from anything, from the band to just being a student to being a student athlete, just being an alum in general. So look forward to having everybody. So thanks for all your questions. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thanks.